Hello, as promised I'm up in the village actually making a video of me working on something rather than just another tour. Now the morning is just arriving, so it seems like the perfect opportunity to actually get out with some light and get on with projects. As you can see, there's been a little bit of work around here since the tour I did. Digger has been over here helping me sort things out. We did a little bit of terraforming, so now the house actually looks like it's on a bit more of its own private land, and the fountain has a much better looking border around it. I'm still not quite happy with the way things are looking. I might end up swapping the fence for Digger's suggestion of the cobblestone walls, as that would just break up the view so that it's hiding where the water and the land meet and would just look a little bit more natural, rather than this, which is currently taking advantage of the fact that water and fences can't interact. Now I got rid of one of the huts, but the other one is still over here for the moment. It's actually been expanded very slightly, just while that population number increases and stabilises, and also hopefully I'll get a couple more iron golems, as the last two went and escaped the village. It seems they're much better at jumping than the average mob, as there is definitely no way for a mob to escape the village over there at the moment, yet they seem to have managed it. It's quite confusing really how they're doing that. But the work today is all going to be done over here. I've been bringing resources over so that I can get to work on it. If I end up needing more resources, then there'll just be a bit of a break in the video as I go and do that. Now as you can see, the fence marks where the hilltop originally was, so I've already done some work expanding it, but I really despise this front edge of the land. I'm not quite sure what to do to fix it, but the natural terrain generation was incredibly vertical, so I'm thinking of filling a lot of it in, expanding the land and then improving the slope downwards, because other than that bit I just filled in, this wall was all original and so rather ugly. So that's the plan for today. You'll be seeing those death messages quite a lot. I'm told it's deliberate, some sort of work being done that involves going between two locations rapidly, so I've been told to expect an awful lot of deaths. I'm not sure if there's not a better way to do it than just killing yourself all the time, but he's happy, so we'll just ignore those messages. I had planned to actually get on with this video much sooner, but unfortunately just life has got in the way. I'm not planning on making this something that I'm working on every single day, as I don't want to actually be like the Mindcrackers and make a job of this. I'm sure most of them didn't start out wanting to make a job of it either, but I'm just pretty sure that I wouldn't be able to keep it up if I promised daily content, and I don't want to promise something that I'll then end up letting people down on. I don't think I'm actually going to be filling the land out any further than this wall. I think after this I'm just planning on having it as an overhang. Oops. Yes, this is another very flat edge. It's just incredibly ugly really, the terrain generation that occurred here. Okay, so I'm probably going to come back and do some more tweaking at a later date, but I'm pretty happy with the changes to the cliff at the moment. I'm possibly just going to finish taking that out at some point and maybe do a bit more shaping there, but then other than that this is all looking very good. I've now got a lot more space on which to work. That was a mistake. Oh, thank goodness for feather falling. Last time I did something like that I didn't have feather falling, I aimed a bit too low there. There we go. So now as you can see there's a lot more land than there was with the original size up here as marked by the fence, so we can fit a lot more houses, and over here we can fit a bridge to connect to about there. It will be right at the edge of the land, much like that one was, but that's fine. It fits with the theme of the village and means that less space is taken up with the fencing and the path that could actually be used for things like housing. Now this area is going to be pretty much just all housing. I'm not really planning on having any nice green space, which is why I was debating having green space. Sorry, that made me jump. Green space up there. I'm assuming that Enderman got upset when he discovered the sun was up. So I'm just going to take out this fence so that I can extend the fence to go around the edges of the new landform. It's expanded in all directions. I was debating expanding it a little bit more on this side, but I've pretty much run out of dirt at the moment and I'm not really in the mood to go collecting dirt, as I collect dirt and then I find that I can't bear having exposed stone, so I have to terraform the area I've been collecting the dirt from, and that's much too big a undertaking for the point of this video. So for now we're sticking with this. It's actually quite a nice size of space. It's unusual in that it's flat. None of the other spaces in the village actually are flat, so I am debating actually with what little dirt, oh I've put it away, what little dirt I have left. Why am I lagging so much all of a sudden? I'm really sorry, I do not know what's causing the lag. I am debating with what dirt I've got left actually increasing the height of that corner of the island over there, so that one of the houses is slightly raised away from the bridge. Ooh, that is problematic, that lag. One moment, I'm just going to have to relog a second and see if that fixes the lag. I'm very sorry. Alright then, again, sorry about that. Hopefully it doesn't come up again. So as I said, I'm going to raise this corner of the village and then have it sloping down to this corner, and so it will have some height changing like the rest of the village, but nothing major. It is a floor with any man-made spot of land. Most of this that's been man-made has just been joining oddly heighted sections of the land already, so I've actually been able just to terraform a hill, or where I've not wanted to terraform a hill, I've just taken up the whole bit of land with a building. For example, the church is sat on land that didn't exist originally. These two bits of land were connected by a tiny bit of ground, so I built up the hill a bit, connected the built the church on top of it rather than trying to shape the top of the hill, and then did some work underneath it to make the overhang look like it originally existed. That kind of thing I'm better at than trying to make a landmass from scratch that looks natural. Although if I do a video on a third server that I take part in that's nothing to do with this one, it contains a landmass that I've made entirely from scratch, floating in the air over an ocean, which was part of a attempt at making something with a very different design from normal, as I'm generally not very good at thinking outside of my usual range of designs. There we go, a few more left. I'll make some more in a moment. Oops, didn't want to do this corner a second. And so I probably will do a video on there, but that's not going to be one of the servers that I make a lot of videos on. If anything, I'll just make the odd one or two. Oh, bummer. Extra bum. Okay. Down we go. Don't want to lose the fences. I don't have that much spare wood available at the moment. As you can see, I've done some work on this edge of the island as well, making things look good, hopefully. Yes, that's fine. There we go. So, get what little dirt I've got left. It should be plenty, as I'm only doing a slight raise on this edge of this island. Oops. Not quite where I was aiming to click. Let's see. No, it's not going to be enough at all, is it? Now I want it to raise there and come out far enough to cover the width of the house, so about there. And that's 2 blocks. Yep, that's fine. Alright, so I'm going to have to get some more dirt later. I'll leave this house until last and then find out just how much dirt I'm actually in need of at that point. So I'll probably put down the floor plan of the house in a moment and then fill in under it before I build the rest of the house. I'll just have to double check the count of how big these buildings actually are. Right, 5 wide. That's a good place to start. So I was going to have it, I think, here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how long? They all have the same floor print, these houses that I'm planning. The only difference is the way they're facing and what's actually inside them. I'm going to try and make the interiors all the same, but have a theme running through the exteriors. So those two houses have the same shape as each other, as do these two buildings have the same shape as each other. The buildings up on the main bit of land have the same amount of space inside the blacksmiths and the bookshop. They're just different materials, as I figured building out of wood in a blacksmith was a stupid idea. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's only actually 1 wider on the inside in that direction. Yeah, only actually 1 wider. So barely rectangular. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll worry about where the door's going later. But that's the basic plan of that building. I'm thinking I'll have the door here. So let's take that out for a moment, and that will be that one. Now this material was only literally because I just had very few blocks in my hand when I was originally designing the properties for this area. I will have the next house facing this house for ease, so that probably wants to be here, and 5 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have the door in the same end as before. Oops. Fix that. And then the next one I will change the orientation. I'm trying to keep the doors in the long sides of the houses in all cases. Let's see. Staggered, yep, that looks good. I've not really got a major plan for this, it's just sort of an image that's forming in my head as I'm working on it. And I unfortunately, having taken the fence out, haven't got this place mob safe at the moment, so there's a bit of a chance we'll be overrun by mobs if I'm not careful, but due to the fact I've made nearly all of it an overhang, that shouldn't be too much of a risk. Oops, why won't you let me? Am I in the way of it? Yes. Oh, I hate when that happens. I've had it quite a few times over there where the buildings actually form the edge of the land rather than the fencing. Oops, keep getting too close to it. And bring it down there, I think. Okay. That'll do. Actually, that'll kind of bug me. I'll put a piece of fence in there, probably just for sake of it, or just take it out. Actually, I might just delete the block. Voila, problem solved. It's generally my solution to a lot of things with this project. The village might not get any bigger than this once I'm done, because none of these other hills are actually near enough, but there is going to be the sister village in the pyramid over there, so I'll move villagers from up here down to there, probably actually just using minecarts. Shouldn't be too hard just to create a straight bridge with a ramp, as getting them through the Nether was an absolute nightmare. I was incredibly excited when the update came out saying that there would be the ability to transport villagers through the Nether, until I tried it. It was an incredibly frustrating couple of days running around near Elemental's place, as he has a village over there, trying to get everything to work. Oh god. I built a pathway for them all the way from the village to his portal. That was quite a distance to transport them. So it had to have quite high walls, as they kept trying to find any excuse to escape every time I accidentally dug the slightest part of it. And then I got them to the portal eventually. I was using water to push them towards the portal. It seemed like the easiest way, and so they'd then enter the portals, no problem there, but refuse then to actually stay in the nether. They'd walk straight back through the portal on the other side and escape, which was just absolutely infuriating. It took me a ridiculously long amount of time to actually get them through the nether into their final homes. And I had originally taken 3 villagers. One of them suffered a bit of an accident. He glitched into the wall and died, so he didn't make it through in the end. The other 2 did eventually make it through. Seems they were much more willing to leave the nether than they were to enter the nether, although transporting them through the nether was also a bit of a nightmare. Luckily, my rail line going to my portal, they wanted, when I built a rail line from Elemental's portal to mine, they actually wanted to make the corner in the correct direction for me. I can't remember what the directional rules on that are, and I'm not sure what way my path is facing in the nether, but it all worked out well. They were a bit argumentative leaving the rail carts and getting into the next portal, but as soon as they were actually at the portal, they were willing to stay through, and then I just made a quick staircase for them up from the bottom of the church, and they were perfectly happy. Something spawned. Fortunately, there shouldn't be much trouble with spawns once I've finished placing all these torches. Alright, that one will be on a fence in a bit. I quite like torching everything up. The land everywhere is completely lit up, so nothing can spawn within the realms of the village. This area, until it's actually connected up, I'm not too worried about whether or not it's fully torched, but I do want it to be fully torched by the time that I'm considering having any villagers come up here. So let's get a few more fences built, and then we will work on the... Oh, that was brilliant. 32, that's not a lot, is it? We'll work on the housing and the road situation. I'm sure I have some gravel available. I'm not sure if I brought it over here actually to make the paths, but all paths in the village are made of gravel. I actually quite like the gravel block. It's one of those odd blocks that you never build with. Mainly in my case, that's because of the gravity issue. I don't like having buildings where even the walls are having to be held up by torches, but I do quite like using the unusual blocks. I've got jungle wood in the houses here. Now, I am not a fan of the actual logs, but I am quite the fan of the texture of the... sorry, I love the logs, hate the planks. They were also the only sideways wood available at the time, which was a key factor in me choosing it. So I've tried to have various combinations of the cobblestone and jungle wood blocks. There's the running theme of a stone foundation with a thinner stone roof in the majority of the main buildings, although the blacksmith and the church are completely cobble. The church, because you never really seem to see churches with anything other than stone walls of various types. The blacksmith, so it can't burn down. And then the hospital, I decided that it was a more modern, in air quotes, building, and so I kept with the materials as if the planning office had said those were the materials they had to use, but decided to put a different design on it, make it stand out. It's a modern advancement from this little farming village, although they're quite lucky to actually have their own place at all. Most villages aren't lucky enough to get a church, so... Not a church, sorry, a hospital. Everywhere generally is lucky enough to get a church. Oops. There's a big problem actually in this area with those zombie noises, because this place, it's just, I think they're spawning on the hillside. and also there is a hole in this hill. You can the opening's over there, you can see it, and I think it might come out lower down over there, but it's also, there seems to be a hole in the middle of this one. I haven't found the entrance, so it might just be sort of an internal cave, but whenever you're inside the bookshop, if you're in its basement, you can hear the zombies all the time, and I'm assuming other creatures. It's just the zombies seem to be the loudest. Creepers definitely don't make any noise. I'd be rather happier if they did, as then I wouldn't keep accidentally falling to my... nope. Being blown up and dying, not falling to my death. That would be a strange thing to be caused by creepers, unless they were knocking me off places. So I'm just working out the logistics of whether or not idiotic villagers might make it out there. I'm going to be extra safe just in case. They can't... oops. Well, there'll be a wall there, so they can't make it up there. I think... aha! This is the kind of thing that I had on the original village, which I discovered was a problem. No monster can get over it, but a villager can walk straight off it. Really frustrating to have to go around fixing every single instance that looked like that in the main village, and that's a large part of what's delayed me finishing off doing the bridge and things. I kept running out of wood. I do have a tree farm, but I just find that so tedious to work on that I haven't been dealing with it. So if I get some more cobble out, we need to design the houses first and foremost, and then design anything else. I'm thinking I can fit 2 houses probably in here, maybe only 1, but definitely further back. Definitely 1 over there, 1 here. That's going to be the bridge. Now I'm just wondering exactly where the bridge is going to be. Probably these 2 blocks. So let's just mark that a second. So the pathway will then be here. 1 second. Yep, I've made that mistake again. I did that an awful lot before. I make 1 thick areas and then wonder why I put a piece of gravel down instead of the dirt and it falls straight through. That was a big problem with the land around the church, which, much like with the with the land around the hospital, which, much like the church, was partially constructed. The overhang that goes between these 2 hills unfortunately meant I lost an awful lot of gravel before I stopped being an idiot and actually focused on what I was doing and realised I was just throwing it all over the edge. Do I want the houses touching? Yeah, for now I'll do that. It's a bit different anyway. None of the other houses are, I don't think, fully touching. So, creates a bit of a change, adds a bit more of an impression that these houses are tighter packed, as these are the people that don't have a business attached to them. The businesses have more space to them, the houses are a bit more separated and just generally, I'm hoping, nicer. They've all got shutters on the windows. I'm not having shutters on these windows, although those 2 houses have shutters on their 2 wide windows, but those are sort of considered like the London flats. They're tiny, but you're paying a premium because of where they are, so they're kept up nicer by the owners. And do I think I can get another one in here? One second, where's the netherrack? Use that a second to mark the path. If I just do that, does it look like another one will fit here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it won't fit in there. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of parkland. I'll probably put a bench looking out. There's a bench over there looking out. I was debating having benches over there, but decided against them. So I think I'll have a bench over here, and then this can enjoy the same view that I've got from the house. I do quite like this view. I've got a project that I want to do out in an ocean. It's the project that was featured in my Feed the Beast video. But if I do it out in this ocean, because I think this extends plenty far enough, it's going to be beyond the edge of where the chunks load for here, because I don't want it to actually be just here completely overlooked by the village, as it's a very different style of project, and I want to keep this place as sort of rural as it can be. So it's near a lot of my other projects, but none of those are big technological projects either. I'm hoping to actually work on redstone and things in the underwater project. The project here and the project on Feed the Beast are going to have the same rough floor plan, but then completely different things within them. I just really like the design. It was a design I made on a server that I was on with a group of friends at university. We all chipped in and covered the costs of running the server. One of us dealt with setting up a host and getting that all sorted so that we could just all join in, have fun, and yes, I did leave coal in there, excellent. Do I have sticks? Brilliant. Running out of torches for this place. So we all just got to enjoy it without the stress of maintaining it, so I've never actually had to worry about the maintenance of any of the servers that I've been on, and generally I stick to servers with friends. But that was a Tekkit server, so I treated it very much like multiplayer creative, really, just with a wider variety of blocks. And so I designed the basic outline that I'm going to be using, but when I designed that, it was a hovering symbol in the sky, and I was working on having various floating orbital rooms that you had to fly to. Now obviously in vanilla, flying isn't actually an option, so things are going to be much more normal. It's going to be more like a gigantic courtyard than a sort of alchemical theme, which is what my original idea was when I started. The alchemy theme is something I really like. The view of all the symbols sort of on an alchemy table is just something I love. The geometrical symmetry of it, even though often they're not quite symmetrical, they're balanced, and that's the kind of thing I love, although I do struggle to make them myself because I always end up trying to make things symmetrical. Blasted OCD, which I do actually have. It's not just me stating that. For once I am actually someone with real OCD. It can cause me a lot of trouble. Sorry, just count this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I actually find that in a game like this, it's quite useful to have OCD, because you're so almost restricted by the square that you then have to try and make things look balanced, because while there's a million and one things you can do with it, it very quickly looks unbalanced being with all these straight edges. But I found that actually I can cope quite well with that. I actually want to stagger this again. I really like the staggered look there, so I think I'm going to take this one back by one, because that staggered look actually really appeals to me. It's sort of like having a semi-detached house over a detached house. A semi-detached just has that bit more feeling of being individual, which I think works quite well with this design, to at least make it so that all the houses are their own, as the interiors will look like they're all owned by different people. I'm thinking of having the doors in slightly different places on some of them. As you can see, this one and this one I've gone for right up against the edge, just to try and emphasize that while they are all the same, they are all different. Sort of goes with the number of different villagers that there are available. It's just one of those odd things I like to do. I'm not a fan of doing cookie cutter things that are completely the same inside and outside. There's enough streets like that in real life that I don't need to recreate the kind of imagery in the game. Let's make that a bit wider. Oops. Gotta stop doing that, really. And frustratingly, I'm going through all the torches. I'll have to deal with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was debating having actually this one being a bit bigger, sort of like a mayor's house, although I'm kind of the mayor of the village, so that's something I'm finding a bit complicated. Not quite sure what I want to do there. I debated having sort of an orphanage, but then they all automatically grow up far too quickly, so not really an option there. And there's not going to be any cattle in this village. The cattle are going to be in the pyramid village, while the basic groceries and things are going to be in this village. That sort of goes against the name, as Spelunkelfjeld is supposed to be sort of a barren high area, but that's why all the villages are done by aquaponics and such technology inside, although you can't actually represent true aquaponics here, as you can't grow crops in some sort of frame over the water. But that's the idea behind these being in the basements, is that the crops are all grown up here using very much so artificial environments, and then looked after carefully by the people who maintain the shops to ensure that the village is fed all year round. Being underground, it means that come winter there isn't actually an issue, as the temperature is constant all year round. I don't actually know if that works with something that's barely underground, but it works with proper tunnels. Learnt that one on the trips I went on a couple of years back. We went camping in the Peak District, went into many different underground cave systems, because you get the most beautiful designs from on the walls in different sort of ores and ages of rock that grow through. I especially like the Blue John caves, as the walls sort of glisten with the minerals in them. It's just absolutely beautiful, some of the walls of the caves down there, and they're all very much so a same. No, I wonder what he's on about. 1 second. I have quite a few tunnels, so I'm not quite sure which one he's on about. If he means like the one on the other end of this, or one of my nether ones, or I have a few underground ones. That's quite confusing. He's been doing actually quite a bit recently for me. As I said, he helped me with the redesigning of the land over there, and he's gone and replaced all the blocks that have torches on with glowstone now. He found a good source of, well, he managed to get far enough out in the nether to get beyond where everyone's already harvested all the glowstone, which is a big problem I've had. I haven't needed glowstone for so long that when I go looking for it, there just isn't any. But come the update with the quartz included, I have actually got a tunnel that goes quite far away in the nether, so that it actually goes to where I was hunting for a witch's hut, but I can easily extend that a bit further and get new generated terrain in the nether, which will contain quartz and should contain glowstone. I can hopefully then have glowstone for myself and glowstone for the spawn, as we have a resources hut at spawn, but not very many resources in it at the moment. More of us seem to borrow resources than are actually... That was really stupid of me. Sorry. More of us seem to be borrowing resources than delivering resources to it. That's better. So I'm hoping to have plenty of resources to donate to that cause in the future. Let's make this one face differently. I could actually have it entered here. Yeah, let's actually do that. Make the entrance on this side. They don't like staring at their neighbours. Very cruel. Horrible neighbours, don't like them at all. I was debating actually including some 2-story buildings that are multiple stories above the ground, so that something other than the church and the hospital have that height over the village. But I'm really actually enjoying this, where all the extra stories that any of these buildings have are underground. It's just something different, restricting your design space so much, as I'm very used to filling big buildings with different materials. I've done that an awful lot, but I haven't actually done a lot of filling little buildings with materials. Now, this material I'm hoping I've brought enough of. If not, the jungle's just over there. I can easily go and get more. Now, yeah, I thought so. How did I do the corners? Oh, what am I doing? I'm an idiot. I am such an idiot. I don't want it doing this, I do want it all doing that. I've not worked on this since the way the blocks place themselves has been changed. So I keep forgetting that I can't now just click on the edges of a block and have everything go into the right place. Now it's only 2 layers of this. And then the roof. The flooring's pretty much all just going to be... that's going to be a problem. I'll have to build the roof first and then worry about that, but that's one. I'm going to put the holes in for the windows in a bit, but I don't want them all to have exactly the same windows either. So it's all going to be worked out once I actually finish that bit of land and things, I think, so that I just have all the buildings here and have a better idea of how they will face against each other. Try and see if there's any things where it just looks completely hideous. Some of the ones where the door is a little bit more central, I'm trying to think if there's any where it actually is central enough. I want to have the windows going next to the doors, as well as... that just doesn't look right, that one, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... I've actually made that one too wide. I'm going to leave that alone because that's perfect for what I want to do, of having glass either side of the doors without it then conflicting with any corners, as these ones will have glass on the corners if I did that. Definitely not doing that. And then I don't want every single one where it's possible to have the door and the glass next to each other. It's a look I really like on most of my builds, but it's not what I'm aiming for, to have everything with that same appearance. Oops, gotta stop doing that. There we go. But this is much better than the 3 houses I originally had up here. What's that, 4 more? That's about as many more as I thought I was going to get, so I'm quite happy with that. One second. So oops, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Yes, I'm planning on bringing over things like flowers. Once the path's in, this won't look quite so bland up here. I do actually want things to be much more decorated. There's a design I like to do on roofs sometimes that involves water that I'd like to put on a building, but unfortunately none of these are really big enough to do that. So unless I do put another building over there, and that can then be again another more modern building like the hospital, that would then be able to have the design I want to place. Sorry, just paranoid about having mobs. I do not want things blowing up when so much of this is only 1 block thick. But otherwise it's going to have to be built somewhere else. I might do it actually on the project over the ocean, because the pyramid is going to be an awful lot of lava rather than any water. It's sort of going to be a lava and stone design. I'm hoping to have the quartz available by then, as we should be updating soonish. I mean, we won't be updating until the actual thing comes out, but I am hoping that the release won't be too long. If it is, then I'll just have to leave cobblestone in place of where I want to place quartz and then update it later on. But I do really want... ooh, just enough. That's alright then. I do really want to use the quartz. It's very good theme wise. It means that I'm using a nether block that isn't the netherrack, as people do like to have a go at me for any netherrack buildings I do. I'm very tempted actually to make a humongous netherrack building at the spawn village just to annoy everyone, especially Digger. He has a real hatred of any time I use them. He keeps complaining that I'm putting intestines everywhere, and that's what he thinks they look like, and to a degree they do actually look like the sort of fleshy walls that you get in a lot of old games, which I think was the original idea, but I actually quite like it. I think mainly because it's the red colour, which is so different from all the earthy colours that are found in most other blocks, and it's not as frustrating to get as bricks, because those I do get fed up of trying to collect. So if we just get rid of you a second. And how much do I have? Quite a lot. I need a lot of doors. Actually, one second. We have doors over there. So I will be right back. Going to get the doors and then continue working out what to do over here. And I'll bring some sand over, I think. I don't know how much sand I brought over here. I don't think, I don't know, 7. So yeah, I'm going to have to go get some sand and get the doors. And then I will be back with you. Okay, before I forget, there was one thing I wanted to do over in this side of the village, which was, oops, sorry, it wasn't get stuck in a door. What on earth? Sorry, I seem to be having an issue there. Which was rename the library, because being a 2-wide doorway, it needed more than one sign. I also found this very frustrating about these languages I've chosen. They seem to be a little bit repetitive. It's even worse up on the church, which now has a name. If I hop up there a second, I'll just show you. Oops, running low on those. I need to make sure I have 1 left, well 2 probably just in case to get over there. But this is St. Monty's Chapel. As you can see, incredibly repetitive words in all 4 languages. But it follows the theme of the hospital, which is Tuskington General. Named so because it was Tuskington that gave me the idea to build a hospital. St. Monty's Chapel is because Monty is the patron saint of the server. So I decided to stick with him as the patron of that. Yeah, this one isn't too bad. A little bit of difference between the languages. I think this one was repetitive, if I remember correctly. Yeah, all very similar ones. They just seem to all be the word smith. Obviously blacksmith is just something that we use in England. But if I just break this off a second. Ooh, nearly full inventory. And get that opening the correct way again. There we go. But in honour of the help that I've been receiving recently, this is going to be the local... Oh, trying to think how to name this. The local digger library. There we go. Named after Digger, who's been giving me all the help. I'll have to check out what's been done on the tunnel. I'm hoping he's just finished the decoration off for me. I was getting sick to death of having to smelt all the stone in order to make the walls. But there we go. The library now has a name. I'm just going to pretend that that's a stylized portrait of Digger, as it's supposed to be a portrait of the patron of the library. But that being pretty much the only acceptable picture that we have on the options of the default texture pack, that's what it's going to be. You might have noticed that the glass is a bit different. I hate the default glass, so I've just tweaked that, but the rest of this texture pack is default. But I am debating actually doing some tweaks to the texture pack, one of which might be that I change some of the paintings so that I can have things such as a painting of Digger on the library just to embarrass him every time he comes by. Let's try and aim higher this time. Excellent. So he's hopefully not going to mind. I know Tuskington found it a bit weird to have a place named after him, but that's what he gets for helping me out. Any places that I've received help on will actually honour the people that have helped. That's the basic ethos I've had. It also means that I can have a reason for naming each building, as just trying to come up with names on my own is actually quite hard. I'm not very good at it. Right, that's all bar this one, which I went and got some more dirt. A little bit of it's harvested. There was some annoyingly out of place blocks down there when I was harvesting some sand, so I went and just harvested those. But some of it was also over in the main village. I've been running out of dirt since I used a lot of it in the cleanup of the prank. I was unable to get it all back, unfortunately, because of the crashing of the server caused by it, but that's okay because I don't actually use dirt that often. It's only when things like this come up that it becomes an issue. 1 second. Maybe that one as well. Then the path can just go up there or in. Let's put that on there and have the path there, and then lowering here. Doesn't have to be too wide all the way up to everyone's front door, but then at least something in the village is that little bit higher, which just makes me happier. I'm not a big fan of all this flat land. It is tempting to also have some of this slightly differently placed. It's very tempting actually to make this lower, but then if I make it lower, I'm going to have even more trouble when I have to create an extra layer underneath for the pathway to be fitted on. I think I'm going to put the roofs on next, just so that the block above each door can be placed, as I don't want to end up with a sideways block. Now I'm not sure if I've got any. Yes, I have got wrong one, roofing blocks. Now these aren't actually going to cover much roof, but that was why I brought all the extra stone over, was in order to make a lot more of that. There we go. Now if we just get on top of one of these, there we go, we can start doing it. I went with the roofs made out of this so that I didn't have to actually put lighting on the roofs. I'm not a fan of having to light up the roof of any of my projects. I just find it so unrealistic. To a degree, having little torches out all over the place lighting the path and things is semi-realistic, as you can consider them those little driveway lights that people have, or little sort of torchy beacons that would have existed before street lights existed and things. It just makes me happier not having lights where there shouldn't be lights, but I don't mind spamming light everywhere else. It's just one of those odd quirks of mine. I'm not a major fan of having odd lights all over the floor, but until a better option is created, that's the one I'm sticking with. Now I've noticed this episode's getting quite long. It definitely wasn't on the plans, but as a first proper episode for the channel, I'm not actually really upset by that I've gone so far over. That's not, made it. It's definitely not the plan for every episode. I'll probably be cutting a lot more footage out in the future, or getting to a good point in a recording and stopping for the night and things like that. I didn't actually set a timer for this, but while I was waiting for the rainstorm that came again to stop, I decided to have a quick check of all the footage I've done so far, and it's definitely far too long at the moment, but I'm going to keep it all in. There's been a couple of deleted parts already. I ended up having a bit of a coughing fit in the middle of one, so I've deleted that, as I'd only just started recording again when that happened, but I had actually started recording when I was finishing off doing the wall down there. Just as I said, unfortunately ended up choking. Oops, no one there. Wondered why I had a spare door. Thought I'd counted the number I was bringing over. But it all works out. In the end, it makes quite a nice video, and hopefully come next video I'll have some actual topics pre-arranged to talk about, so it won't just be this rambling talk going through the build, as I won't be repeating myself explaining just basic ideas behind I've got to stop doing that, various building decisions, as I think you'll get sick of me if I decide to do that every single episode. Sorry, I had another little bit of a coughing fit there. I've placed all the windows now on the houses. They have views through back windows, and then some of them have, well, most of them have windows pointing out the fronts as well. This one I'm debating taking that window out to, oops, oh well, running low, to go with the antisocial theme I've chosen for the person that lives there. But for now I'm just going to leave it at that. They've all got a selection now, and so the views can be appreciated when you're out in the village running around calling in on anyone. I didn't actually bring beds with me, unfortunately. I've completely forgotten to bring the wool over, so that I'll have to deal with at another point. So I'm probably just going to replace all the floors in these houses with stone for the moment. Oops. I was debating doing wood, but that just seems a little bit upmarket for the theme of this area, so I'm going to go with stone, and then next episode will be decorating these properties. One second. Oh, did it again. Made this one too wide. Okay, not sure what was with me then when I built these, but these ones are extra wide over here. The antisocial guy and the much more social guy both have bigger houses. I don't mind too much, as the plan was to make them individual, so I can just about manage with that. I was trying to overcome the usual habit I have when building villages of it just being a square grid. That unfortunately quite a theme in most of my villages I've tried. I've done a lot of single player village work, but it never turns out well, which was mainly actually why I decided to undertake this project on the server, where if necessary I could ask the other people on here to be a second pair of eyes, give me an idea, which is what I've been getting help with from Digger, which has been great. Oh, now do I want that on the inside or the outside? Nah, outside. I'll just replace the doors. That's going to have to be done on every house now. I'll worry about that as well tomorrow. But the... oops, sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. The interiors of them are all going to have the same basic items of a bed and probably a chair and table. Some of them will have workbenches. The odd one might have, say, a furnace, because obviously you need a kitchen in the odd one. I'll leave those until tomorrow. But the design and layout I'm hoping will actually be unique on each one, so that it's just not completely uninspiring, I think's the word I'm looking for. Probably not actually, I'm sorry, my brain is completely failing me. But hopefully they'll just be more interesting, as I quite enjoy just running around on the server, visiting people, seeing what the villagers are up to when they're in and out of buildings, and just pretending really that this is actually a thriving village. So what's the point of building it in order to just abandon it, really? So I should probably do that. I'm hoping to actually use it. That's part of the idea behind the houses, not houses, the businesses. Oops, just use these over in the main section. The grocery shop, as I've said before, I use when I've run out of food. The cake shop is very useful because it grows the wheat, so Sometimes when I'm making cakes for other people or whatever, I have a little wheat supply there, although I do actually have a sort of cake making station down in the area that I do most of my working. I've got a cow and some chickens and a bit of wheat trapped down there. Oh, that one's done. But I think that's me done for the night. I'm just going to grab some more ender pearls from the chest, hop over to the other side and probably get a bit of an aerial view. I'll just build a bit of a dirt pillar and see what this all looks like, and then call it a night and record another episode soon, maybe even tomorrow, which will that is so wall of plane at the moment. I'm going to have to work on that, but that's, oops, can't do it there. Let's try and get a bit of height, see if we can compare the layout a bit. That actually looks quite nice. The joined houses, actually, I really like the look of. I decided to keep these two separated when I built them. Just, again, it's that theme of being a bit more expensive to rent from, or buy really. I'm not a landlord, they all own their properties, but everything is disconnected from each other. No one's having to share a wall, whereas in the main housing section, people that don't have these businesses and things under their ownership are having to pay out a bit more. I might just consider that the nursing staff of the hospital's housing. I think that's what I'm going to go with, because the staff have to live somewhere, and that at least then means they have a job up here, whereas there aren't any jobs actually for these people. So I'm just going to assume that they're some sort of hired hands, or maybe the elders of the village. Could be the village elders passed on their jobs to the younger generation and moved out. I'm not quite sure, but whatever I come up with story-wise, I'll probably tweak the design of the building and things to reflect that. I'm going to extend that down a bit so that I can put the path in. But again, that's all for another episode. I'm going to call this one a night now, because it's definitely got far longer than I expected. I will have a timer next to me next time so that I can keep an eye on how things are going and try and keep the episodes down to maybe 20 minutes at a time, as that then means that I can work on the editing and things, as that's something I definitely need to learn. I've been trying to get to grips with the ideas behind editing various bits of the videos and things, but I'm still not quite confident on how to do that well. But hopefully over the next few videos you'll see an improvement. I've been working on some scene transitions which you should have been seeing in this video. I've also got the introduction and the end of the video recorded, so fingers crossed there'll be a lot more content of this type, but a lot more organised and more sensible duration to it, and also just a lot more actually going on in the episode. I'll probably have more correctly done jumps in time rather than just suddenly jumping when I suddenly end up choking, but actually deliberately getting to a point where I can cut it until I've done some work, so that you don't have to see everything I'm doing, because I don't know if people actually enjoy that. If you do, let me know and I won't cut it out, but I'm going to err on the side of people not liking just to see every single step and start cutting some of them out if I get no feedback. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you soon.